thanks so much for coming and joining Sunday Morning Zen. I know you hear this from me often, but it bears repeating. Programs like this, like Sunday Morning Zen, Commit to Sit, as well as all of the in-person offerings that we do here at the center, depend on your generosity for us to keep them going. And so what I would hope that you would do while you have a moment, and it's top of mind, is just head over to zlmc.org/donate and continue to partner with us to make things like this possible. It's very important to the future of the center, and we sincerely appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts.
Michael, I'm sorry. This is Chris. I just wanted to remind everybody to mute yourself after being in breakout sessions.
Good call, Christine.
Thanks.
Good call. All right. We're excited about this morning's speaker. Shinko Roshi is the Abbess of Great Mountain Zen Center in Colorado, and she's the co-author of The Great Heart Way, How to Heal Your Life and Find Self-Fulfillment, as well as the creator and leader of Great Heart Way Retreats. And she's also the author of The Zen Priestess and the Snake, A Woman's Path of Transformation and Healing through Rediscovery of the Great Mother. And she's going to be speaking to us this morning about Prajnaparamita and the sacred feminine for the future of our planet. We're excited about the class series, but we're excited very much to hear from you this morning. So we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. And a special thanks to Roshi Joishin and Sensei Jun for having me here. When I started to think about this talk, although the topic in the middle, I kind of knew what it was going to be, but how to start the talk, what came to me from the heart was the vow of saving all sentient beings. And although this is a vow that when we think about it, we just say it's impossible. For the heart, there is nothing impossible. It's just a very deep, deep vow of bodhisattvas. And it's not something that we take from the outside and try to make it fit with us and with our heart. No, it's a vow that comes so strong from the depth of the heart. And it's good to just let it go like that. So big and magnificent vow. It reminded me of a saying, a Buddhist saying, it's anonymous Buddhist saying, that the heart, that the universe is not big enough to contain our heart, but our heart contains the whole universe. It doesn't make any sense. And that's wonderful. It just goes beyond the box of what we think is possible, the box of the conceptual knowledges. They are very important, but also they can be very limiting at other times. So our planet contains all the myriad beings. And I often have the question, what can I do to help all beings? What is most essential for me when I think about saving all sentient beings? So today it's with a humble heart that I want to present the sacred feminine, Prajnaparamita, and her relevance for the future of life in this planet. since the patriarchal civilization that is currently destroying our planet was rooted in the suppression, denial, and persecution of the sacred feminine, it is important that everyone knows the true story. What happened before what we think it was the beginning of history? What happened then? Because also most people, if you ask around, they think that civilization started with the violence of the Bronze Age. And it's not like that. Actually, there is extensive evidence that during the first 100,000 years of life in this planet, we experience the creative source of life as the mother. And she, this mother, contained in herself feminine and masculine qualities of being and gave birth to humanity and all of creations. The first archaeologists that studied the remaining of the civilization of the old Europe, that include parts of the Middle East, they came to study this with a mind that was already made up. That the real civilization started with patriarchy, and the old civilizations that honor the mother goddess must have been simply fertility cults, like very primitive people. And there is no more further from that truth. These actually were times of peace. And men and women, we lived in harmony and contributed with our mutual effort to the survival of humanity. And the moon, one of the supreme images of the mother. Our first ancestors learned from the moon that life and death are not opposite from each other, but aspects of the mother. Also that impermanence and transformation, they learn from the moon about impermanence and transformation. They saw the waxing moon as the young human, the full moon as the adult, and the waning moon as the old person. But then they counted also the time of the days, the nights where there is no moon. And for them, this was a very important period of darkness, where they felt that the moon was going through some process of transformation. I imagine that the first time they saw this, they thought, oh, the moon is not coming back. It just went away. This was one time thing. And then 3 days after, they see this new moon coming back. And then the cycle starts. So this invisible or dark face of the moon, for them, they saw also their lives like that at time of death, we enter into that invisible or dark dimension to return to the dark and luminous mother, and then be reborn again, like the moon, as the new human. This is a really, really beautiful perception of death and transformation. Can you imagine being one of our first ancestors? Of 100,000 years ago? Can you imagine the dark pitch blackness of the caves? Terrifying sounds. And then suddenly you see this great disk of white light illuminating the night. Wouldn't you feel sensations of safety and reassurance to know that she was there at that disk of luminous light? Then we could see again inside the caves and we're not so terrified about the incredible noises they heard at night. So if I had been there, I for sure would have prostrated in front of the moon in reverence to the benevolence of the Great Mother. And our first ancestors also, they were nothing but primitive. It seems that now that we are destroying our own planet, I mean, who is the primitive? The choral mode of at that time, the moral code of that time, was about maintaining the connection and unity with the sacred whole. They perceive everything as sacred. The environment, the cosmos, and each person and each animal. They did have to hunt to survival. We did not need it to hunt for survival. But we were conscious that we were making a tear in the invisible fabric of connection and interdependence. So a very different attitude of how animals are taken today. And for this, they had shamans that they could see into the invisible dimension, and they would go into the darkest parts of the cave and journey into that invisible dimension and mend the fabric of interconnection and interdependence. And they would apologize to the spirit of the animal that had been haunted. And that this was very important. And this code of morality that kept us all together, working together, surviving together, helping each other. This state of morality lasted for 30,000 years until the Bronze Age, when nomadic warrior tribes came to the old Europe and the Middle East with weapons and horses, and entire villages were massacred. People, women, men, children, old people, everyone. You can still read this in the pages of the Old Testament. Those were the first genocides. And then as we advance more into the Bronze Age with the fabrication of weapons. What was before the myth of the goddess is substitute now for the myth of the warrior hero. And the myth of the goddess gets relegated to the unconscious mind of humanity. The notion of the underworld with darkness, lifelessness, and menace did not arise in our psyche until the trauma and anarchy of the Bronze Age. If we wonder if aggression towards others, the environment, and ourselves is innate or not, it is important to know that no evidence has been found that people fought each other until the Bronze Age. The patriarchal practices of violence, domination, and exploitation didn't appear until the middle or east of the Bronze Age, from the 2000 to the 1250 BC. So it's good to know that peace is a primal gift. And it was also during the Bronze Age that the religion of the Mother Goddess was victim of 2000 years of continual persecutions by those who were promoting the male god Yahweh as supreme. They wanted to exterminate all of those who venerated the goddess. And they even wanted to erase even the name of the goddess from the face of the earth. Therefore, they were called pagans. Even though the destruction was massive and all the temples demolished, there were still found so many artifacts from that time, objects, that it has been now with the new progress in archaeology and the detection of these things, it has been easy to establish what happened then. And then later on, with the Judeo-Christian tradition, contribute further to suppressing the power of the sacred feminine, with the tale of the Garden of Eden, which is a patriarchal invention to destroy the reputation of women. Not only the reputation, also the mental sanity of women. They just wanted to subjugate them and should subjugate all of us and subjugate peoples of all genders with the new laws of patriarchy. When the tradition of the Great Mother was persecuted, some people were able to escape to the Indus Valley, where the religion of the Mother Goddess gave rise to Tantrism, and entered Tibet with practices. The practices of the Great Mother then entered into Tibet, and they had been kept safe as part of Vajrayana practices. Our ancestors saw the whole of creation as the Great Mother that gave birth to all forms of life that were herself. She was not separate. She embodied our planet and the whole of creation. We were her children. This primordial way of conceiving the universe is still present in our minds and heart. We just have to remember. Having been raised in a patriarchal civilization, like I would say everyone, it's difficult to imagine what would be like to be born in a civilization that embraces the creative source of the universe in the image of a maternal mother. A maternal mother, which containing in herself feminine and masculine energies, gave birth to humanity and to the world. Can you imagine that? Imagination and visualization go hand in hand and are a primal gift from that time when the moon was not there and we learned to visualize the moon even when she was not there. Also, we learned to visualize the process of death and transformation. Zen practice, like you all know, is about being empty. In Zen, this empty mind, we call it not knowing. In order to express not knowing, we learn to transcend our conceptual mind. In the experience of not knowing, we are connecting with a deeper wisdom that doesn't belong to the self. Our ancestors of 30,000 years ago recognized that they didn't know. They lived in the mind of not knowing. They didn't know anything. They didn't even have to fake it. It was just, they didn't know anything. So they lived in the mind of the not knowing. That's also a very safe mind to be, because when you are in the mind of not knowing, you are all perception. You can hear what is coming. You can hear everything. Very in tone with the environment, being in the mind of not knowing. They also were free from all patriarchal conditioning that have not been implanted in our mind yet. So they were open to all possibilities. All possibilities. Because of their not knowing minds, our original ancestors saw the interconnection and interdependence of all things. And this wisdom was very important factor in the survival and evolution of humanity. Regarding the mind, Carl Jung says, its ancestry goes back many millions of years, sprung from a perennial root beneath the earth. And he tells us that we would be in better accordance with the truth if we took the existence of the root into our calculations. For the root matter is the mother of all things. Jung urges humanity to reclaim the mother of all things in us. And he says that the knowledge of the entire human race is stored within the mind as the original root and is potentially available to each one of us. And you must be very familiar with this, but it's important. Jung talks about a human being with personal unconscious, exclusive to each person, and a collective unconscious, inherited by every member of the human race. And he says that an experience of the race is never lost, but transmitted down the race as the more obvious, instinctive, and learned processes. The whole history of the race is in some way always alive in the minds, in our minds, in all minds, as part of being humans. As things get tougher for our planet, we will instinctively know to reach this perennial root, the source of all knowledge within us, and the mother of all things. The vision of survival, mutual cooperation, unity, connection, and interdependence of our first ancestors is still within us and accessible today. We just have to reconnect with it. Jung also said that meditation seems to be the royal road to the unconscious mind. And this was very important for Shishin Roshi and I to find this quote about meditation being the royal road to unconscious mind. And that was the basis for our practice in understanding our own unconscious mind and writing the book of The Great Hard Way. And then, yeah, something happened to me also after doing many years of intensive zazen and inquiring about everything in me, that I experienced one day as if a vortex of light had opened in my body mind, and I was able to see the distant past, a feminine and sacred mother that was very benevolent. And that vision was what motivated me to start researching and looking, and other experiences too, like everything happened at once. During the last centuries, 4 centuries actually, we have been trained in the patriarchal ways of thinking. We have forgotten what feels like being born in an universe that we perceive as a maternal mother, which equally contains all genders, races, and creatures. We have forgotten, but it's still there. Like Jung says, this way of perceiving life is still present in us, and we can reconnect with it. It exists in the shadows of the unconscious mind of all beings, together with the possibilities for peace, guidance, and survival. All earthlings and the planet are at the heart of the sacred feminine. in times like this, when we don't really know if we will survive the climate crisis or not, it is a great time to reconnect with the mother of all things in us, men and women. Prajnaparamita, the mother of all Buddhas and the sacred feminine, is an evolution of the great mother of prehistoric times. Yeah, after the persecutions, they enter into the Hindus Valley, and it first appears in the Mahayana tradition between the 400 and the 800 after death. Zen and Sufi master Lex Hickson, which actually is in our tradition, he says in his book Mother of the Universe, says the Great Mother illuminates the entire universe because she is not some local or limited goddess, but our universal mother. She is recognized in the Mahayana Buddhism as Prajnaparamita, the depth of unthinkability, mother of all the Buddhas. So it's this depth of unthinkability. We need to get in there. That's the gate of everything, of all the knowledge within ourselves and the mother of all things. So Prajnaparamita is the sacred feminine and the womb of emptiness that gives birth to the different elements that form this world, including our bodies and the whole of creation. So Prajnaparamita is also considered the womb of emptiness, and out of her womb of emptiness, all the elements that create this world and our own bodies. Everything that exists is created from the elements. Another word for Prajnaparamita is the wisdom of emptiness, or a space goddess. The goddess practices that I will be teaching during the workshop here for the Zen Life and Meditation Center were discovered by the Bon tradition of Tibetan Buddhism in the 8th century, after death. But these practices are a lot older, by many centuries, and were transmitted orally. They come from the time of the Great Mother. And they are the door into feminine wisdom. Sorry. During the workshop, we will experience the space goddess and all the elements that create this world and our bodies as goddesses. These practices are healing practices. The long version of the Prajnaparamita Sutra says that one who understands Prajnaparamita cannot be harmed by fire, wind, or water. Before we go into each goddess practice, we purify our heart by visualizing the subtle energies of fire, wind, and water. The sutra mentions poison as well. To each elemental goddess corresponds an organ of the body. While you lie down, I will guide you in the visualizations of the goddesses, removing toxic energies from your body and replacing those with the luminous lights of each element. These lights also purify our karma. And this is the main part of the practice. And it's done lying down. And you can bring a pillow and a blanket. And it's the most popular part of the practice. But it's also the core of the practice. And also the practice have five parts, and I will be guiding you. You don't have to know anything. You just need to lay down and enjoy. that every time we go through one this part, we start entering deeper and deeper into the heart, transforming the heart. This is a very beautiful practice, because also the space goddess is also the goddess of the heart, and transforms the poison of ignorance into the wisdom of emptiness and unconditional love. We start the practices with the denser elements of earth, water, fire, and end with the more subtle elements of air and space. The practice of the space goddess is done last because it represents emptiness, and it's from this emptiness that all the other elements manifest. So when we do the space goddess, then we see all the elements, all the goddesses of the elements at once. But again, I will guide you to do this. Excuse me one moment. I want to be sure I didn't miss anything. It's very important to let you know that these practices, although I'm sure you know it, are not theistic practices. We are not, separating ourselves from the deity. We are not praying to a deity that is outside ourselves. Well, actually, we do it by visualizing them, by visualizing the energies of the elemental goddesses. We are awakening, and also with the calling mantras, we are awakening these energies inside our bodies, these enlightened energies. And this is very wonderful, because when we wake up these energies and we see the poisons, because these goddesses also transform the poisons of pride, arrogance, hatred and anger, greed and attachment, jealousy and envy, ignorance and fear, into the 5 wisdoms of equanimity, mirror-like wisdom, discerning wisdom, all-accomplishing wisdom, and unconditional love. So when we get used to the taste of the 5 wisdom in our body, we, in a natural way, we will want to abstain of bringing to our body energies that don't feel very nurturing to our bodies. And one thing that I know I forgot to tell you, we are at the end of this, is that one time I asked a teacher of visualization, a teacher, and about visualization, because a lot of people ask about that, and they worry about visualization, and they worry about whether they are going to be able to say it correctly or do it correctly or not. Her answer blew my mind. She said, "What? Visualization is nothing. You're doing it all the time. There is nothing to it. When we are reading a book, we are visualizing. When we are fantasizing about the future, we are visualizing. When we are fantasizing about the past, we are visualizing. When we are daydreaming, when we are dreaming, when we recall a person from the past, we are visualizing that person. So we are doing it all the time, but by doing it more regularly, more consciously, what happened is that then we start seeing more clearly. And if we see more clearly these subtle energies made of light forms, we see more clearly everything, our life, everything more clearly. It brings a lot of clarity to our lives. And another thing that also that I have noticed the benefit, and is another thing why I love to do this so much, and with a group is a lot more powerful, is because visualizing light, luminous light, actually cleans up the channels of perception of our body, which is not only the five senses, but that they are senses of perception through the whole body, mind, and heart. So, yeah. And also, it's amazing what it does, but we are, especially after the pandemic, we have absorbed so much negative energy from the media, from the news, from each other, from being closed in. And this is a way to clean up our systems from that energy, to let that energy go and fill ourselves with luminous energy brought to us by the goddesses. So this is it for the talk. I just want to finish again with thanking you all for being here, and vowing again to save all sentient beings forever. Prajnaparamita.
We certainly have time for some questions or comments from anyone who'd like to. You can just unmute yourself.
Shinko, Roshi, I feel so fortunate that I heard your Teisho this morning. It's such a deep and clear and moving voice you have, and the teaching that you're bringing into the world. I'm so grateful for what you that you were able to share your Dharma with us this morning. It feels to me like you're integrating Mahayana and Vajrayana a lot in a kind of organic way. It's very beautiful what you're doing. And I'm so happy that you're going to be doing the workshop here with us as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an honor.
Shinko Roshi, yes, I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you for such a beautiful, beautiful talk. It's so exciting, actually, to think that visualizing luminous energy can be so clearing. That's beautiful. I'm really looking forward to it.
Anyone else?
Again, I don't have a question either. I just want to call out for myself that at the very beginning of your talk, you talked about the heart being able to, that nothing is impossible for the heart. When you were talking about the Bodhisattva vow and how impossible it seems, but nothing's impossible for the heart. And that was just really, that really touched me. I hadn't thought about it that way before. So thank you for that.
I was wondering if any of the people that have done this practice with me want to say something. I think there is only one person here, so she knows what I'm talking about.
Well, I would just say that the practice is extremely powerful, and I hope that people take this opportunity because it's been very helpful to me in my life and in my practice. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
And she also, Lisa, thank you. She has done also the recent Great Heart workshop that we did for the Zen Peacemakers International. And she brought to me that this practice is another way of doing the Great Heart practice, but it's a very subtle, tender, soft, and powerful way of kind of removing energies that do not serve us and bringing the luminosity.
Shinko, Roshi, I have one more question. You know, this talking about feminine energy. I would wonder what about, you know, if men were thinking about this, you know, because I don't know how many men might come to this, but I wonder if you might speak to that.
Yeah, this is so wonderful. Because I mentioned it several times, but maybe it was kind of hidden, or that the original mother had in herself the seeds of everything: men, women, all creatures, all races, all genders, and that the masculine is only another form of the feminine. And I sometimes I see that men can be very angry about it, but other times I see the men that could be very released about this, that they don't have to be separate from the mother, that actually men and women are part of the mother. And men, this is my view, that men that own the feminine in themselves are so beautiful. I mean, you can feel the beauty. They don't stop being masculine, but they are masculine with a feminine heart. And you know, I can see the two Roshis here like that. And I see like the Dalai Lama like that, and you know, many other men that felt separate from the mother. They feel they are just part of the mother, the same as women, really. And I have heard stories, but I forget the temples, that there are some temples in Japan, but I don't know exactly which, that first you go through all the rooms that have the male Buddhas, but the last room has the mother, and yeah, so it's very significant, very significant. And anyway, stop me because I will continue.
I'm laughing because the Tibetans, one of their relative bodhicitta practices is to ask everyone to ask you to imagine that all sentient beings are your mother. And they're always surprised when they do this, give this instruction to Westerners, that it doesn't work for a lot of Westerners, because they don't have they don't love their mothers, and the Tibetans just can't. They just can't get that. You don't love your mother? How is that possible? But so there's a lot of dysfunction
Yeah.
in our culture, and a lot of so this is such a beautiful, healing, and clear teaching you're offering us. And again, it's just I wasn't planning on taking it, but I'm going to sign up. God, this is a-
Thank you, Shishin, too.
Yeah, I want to say something. Full disclosure, Shinko Roshi's my wife and also my Dharma partner. And I've known Joshin Roshi for probably 50 years. He's a good friend. And I've known June for not that long, but decades. I just want to say about masculine and feminine, and this relates directly to my Zen practice, which is more than 50 years, is that when I first started practicing, I had read to hold your mind like a great iron mountain or a great iron wall to hold out all thoughts. And I sat like that for more than a decade. And it was really hard practice. It was very strenuous, and it was like samurai approach. You know, a thought comes up, cut it off. And then after more than a decade of doing that, I realized that I could just let all the thoughts come in, you know, and breathe in all the thoughts, feelings, emotions into my lower abdomen, the hara, I call it the ocean of the Dharma, and they all become the one Dharma, you know, and not engage them, but just breathe them in. And I view that as feminine practice, receiving everything, letting everything come in, and just transforming it into the one taste of the Dharma ocean. And so my practice transformed from a very macho samurai approach to a more receptive feminine approach. And believe me, that is a much easier and much more fulfilling way to practice, at least for me. And I have done the goddess practices with Shinko Roshi a number of times, and they're very healing and very expansive and very luminous. So, you know, I'm actually her agent, but I haven't received a penny from it, but I've received a lot of joy.
Well, it's just so lovely to see you both, Shisha and I. It's so lovely to see you here this morning, and I've known you for 50 years. Oh my gosh. We've been through a lot in 50 years of Zen practice. Boy, where we've come from. Yeah.
So shall we finish? Or do you, yeah? Okay.
Thank you so much, Shinko. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shinko Roshi.
Thank you, Shinko Roshi.
Love you both. Shishin, love you.
We love you both too.
Love you.
Do we recite the 4 vows or the?
We certainly can.
Oh, I have the meta prayer here. Can I do that one?
Yeah, please. Please.
And you can repeat after me if you like.
Yeah, we can do that.
May all beings be happy.
May all beings be
Please be
happy.
happy.
May all beings be safe.
May
May
all
all
beings
beings be safe.
May all beings be healthy.
May all beings be healthy.
happy.
May all beings be at ease.
May all
May
beings
beings be at ease.
And for the sake of all beings,
and for the sake
For the
of
sake of all
all,
beings,
may we all be realized.
may we
may
all
we
be
all be
real.
realized.
So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.